Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars, and welcome to my review for the 1986 Alien sequel, Aliens. The film this time round is directed by James Cameron, and it stars Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn, Carrie Henn, Paul Reiser, Lance Henriksen, and Bill Paxton. Now, the film is set 57 years after the first film, and Ripley is kind of rescued by a deep space salvage team, brought back to Earth, and she basically explains to everybody what happened in the first film. Nobody really believes her, and the reason they don't believe her is that there is a colony now living on LV-426, and they've been living there for a long time, and they've never found anything like what she has described. However, they lose contact with this colony, and they ask Ripley to go back with a group of Marines to investigate why they've lost contact. She initially is very reluctant, but agrees to do it under the premise that the aliens this time will be wiped out. When they get there with the Marines, they find that the colony has been overrun by the aliens, and it then becomes a fight for survival for Ripley, the Marines, and a little girl, Newt, who Ripley kind of adopts after she loses her daughter. Right. What are my thoughts on Aliens? Well, as sequels go, they don't really get much better than this. Recently, I've just reviewed Alien on the channel. I wanted to revisit Alien and Aliens, and probably the others as well. I will do the other Aliens films. And Alien is a perfect film. Is a perfect science fiction horror. I gave that one a 10 out of 10. I couldn't give you a fault with that film. No surprise here, guys. I can't give you a fault with this film. This is one of those sequels that takes the first film, takes everything from that first film that was fantastic and worked, and then evolves it into something new, which is what we get here. You get Marines in space, you get action, you get humour. It's funny at times. You get an incredible central performance by Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, who deservedly got an Oscar nomination. And you get an absolutely gripping film from beginning to end. This has always been, for me, an absolute stunning film. It's just so incredibly done with so many memorable characters. You know, the majority of these Marines, there's only a handful of them whose, names and faces you don't recognise, but the ones they want you to remember, you remember in this film. It is superbly made, superbly directed, superbly acted, and it's pitched perfectly. The build-up, of discovering Ripley, and then her realisation that it's 57 years later, her daughter has now grown up and passed away. She's grieving from that, and then she's traumatised from what happened in the first film. And then, she has to go back, really. She's got to face this fear by going back, which is what she does. And these Marines, when we first meet them, they're all very cocky. They're all very, full of themselves. And she knows she pretty much knows what they're going to face when they get there. So she doesn't necessarily feel particularly comforted by these Marines that are kind of, going out there to deal with this situation. But she still feels compelled to go. And the world building when you get there, this colony and stuff, it's just fabulous. This slow burn, if you like, because this is quite a long film, especially, the director's cut sort of thing. So you get this lovely slow burn of this slow introduction to the characters and the story, and even when they get out to the the planet, you still get a slow burn there of the realisation that the colonists have gone. Where have they gone? Doing a bit of investigating, and then boom, when they find these colonists, and they go out and check it out, and then the film just kind of gets really, really fantastic again at that point. It delves very, very smartly into horror when it needs to. This film, at its heart, it's action, but also it's pretty damn scary when it wants to be. This film, and I think how James Cameron kind of evolved the species into this real threat and this, en masse force that are more than a match for these Marines, really. You know what I mean? And the fact that, Ripley makes this connection with Newt, this mother-daughter connection, and she'll go to any lengths to save Newt, sort of thing, and protect Newt. I just thought it was so wonderful. And there's a fantastic documentary, I think, that goes with this. It's called Superior Firepower. It's like the making of Aliens. And it's a stunning documentary. It's 3 hours long as well. I think it's around 3 hours long. And for me, it's one of the finest movie documentaries out there. And it goes through the making of this film, needle to thread. If you've any interest in this film and how this film was made, like, from concept to finished thing, you need to watch that documentary because it's just fabulous. It's got interviews with literally everybody associated with this film. And it is such an eye-opener. So many things that you learn. The fact that, initially Sigourney Weaver was never keen to do a sequel, and then, Cameron kind of wrote this in secret and then presented this script to Sigourney Weaver, who was blown away by it. The fact that it was so heavily focused on Ripley and her relationship with Newt and all this kind of stuff, and she was really, really keen to come on board. And then there was a pay dispute, and the studio basically told Cameron at that point that he had to write her out of the script, which he pretty much refused to do. But eventually, obviously, the pay dispute was settled and Sigourney Weaver came on board. It's just such a great documentary, and I strongly, strongly recommend it. And you've got arguably one of the most memorable characters of all time in this film, which is Hudson, played by the late, great Bill Paxton, with some of the best lines, not only in this film, but any film. And apparently he did improvise an awful lot of his lines. Like the game over, man, game over, and stuff like that. Apparently he improvised quite a lot of his lines. He was such a fantastic, memorable character. I remember being absolutely gutted. Spoiler alert, guys, if you've never seen it. When Hudson was taken by the aliens and assumedly killed, I was just gutted. I desperately wanted him to survive. Hicks was a great character, the Michael Biehn character. It was a fantastic sequel. A sequel, like I say, as sequels go, it proudly stands up next to the first one. I think you can't separate them in regards to the quality, but they are both the same film but different, and they just stand together beautifully as two perfect films, in my opinion. I love it, Aliens. Definitely one of my favourites of all time, guys. I'm going to review and rewatch Alien 3. I haven't seen it for a long time, and hopefully see how that one fares up, because I remember never really being a massive fan of that one over the years. But I shall give it another go for you guys and give it a review. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to call back on the channel for loads more content very, very soon.